Yo, 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 what is up, YouTube? BK, Brad Kellner. It is Saturday, April 24th, 2021. We're talking Texas football, and we're talking spring game. That's right. The orange-white scrimmage just wrapped up down on campus. The white team taking the victory over the orange team 20-12, the final score. I'm not sure if anybody really cares about the final score, but we're giving immediate post-game reaction. My thoughts and your thoughts too. Would love to hear from y'all. Any comments, any questions, feel free to hit me in the live chat. This video is live, so I can respond in real time. Of course, if you're watching this video after the fact, hit me in the comment section as well. I'll try to get to your comments as quickly as possible. So once again, White gets the win 20-12. We'll talk quarterbacks, we'll talk running backs, we'll talk Steve Sarkisian and some of the coaching decisions that he made today. I know some Texas fans a little bit upset with a lot of the starters getting run in the last 5 minutes of a meaningless scrimmage in April. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about some of Sark's post-game comments. He just wrapped up his post-game presser, and they were airing it on LA Chan. I know it was happening down on campus too, so I'll check Twitter. I heard some of it as well, so I'll give you some of what Steve Sarkisian had to say about this spring game. Obviously, we got to start with the quarterbacks, guys. Casey Thompson and Hudson Card both got significant run in this game. Both played well into the fourth quarter. You know, Hudson Card started the first series of the second half for the white team, and then he got replaced by Ben Ballard. And I was like, all right, day's done for Hudson Card. And Hudson Card's first drive of the second half was magnificent. He led the white team on a touchdown drive. And I was like, okay, I guess Sark says he has seen enough from Hudson Card. In comes Ben Ballard, the former walk-on, and Card is done for the day. That was not the case. I think Ballard played one series. Maybe he played a couple of other plays in the second half as well. But Hudson Card came back into the game, and Card was on the field actually for the last possession of the game for the white team. And then, of course, Casey Thompson was on the field on the final possession of the game, right? He was chunking a Hail Mary 50 yards down the field to try to score a touchdown and then get the two-point conversion, which would have tied the game. I'm curious to see what Sark would have done if the orange team was able to tie it up in the final seconds. But, yeah, both quarterbacks playing the vast majority of this game. We did see some Charles Wright. We did see some Ben Ballard, but I was expecting to see more of those guys. I'll be completely honest, but I'm not upset about it. I mean, we all want to see what the quarterbacks look like in the closest thing to a game situation that this team will have between now and September 4th. Hell, between the Alamo Bowl last year and September 4th of this year. So I'm not going to complain with the fact that the QBs wearing the non-contact black jerseys were on the field until the very end. I wanted to see as much of those guys as possible, and we did get to see a lot of those guys today. We'll start with Casey Thompson. He technically got the start. The orange team had the ball on offense first. You know what? Before we dive in to the individual performances, guys, I will say there was one thing that really disappointed me about this game. And it has nothing to do with Bijan Robinson being on the field in the last 4 minutes and potentially tweaking his ankle a little bit. I'm disappointed that we didn't get to see Hudson Card run with the ones on offense. Like, I saw the rosters come out yesterday. I saw Casey Thompson was on the orange team, which pretty much had all of the other ones on offense. And I saw Hudson Card on the white team, which pretty much had the number twos on offense. But I figured, like, at halftime or at some point in this game, maybe the quarterbacks would switch teams and we'd get to see Hudson Card run with the ones and also run against the ones on defense. So it's hard to fully judge the quarterbacks today. I've got some thoughts. Everybody's got some thoughts on what we saw for sure, but we never got to see Hudson Card run with the ones on offense, and we didn't get to see him go up against the ones on defense too. And then the opposite holds true with Casey Thompson, right? Like, I mean, he was with the ones for the most part. There was a stretch in the third quarter where a lot of receivers who were playing in the game were walk-ons, and Jordan Whittington and Troy Amiri got a little bit of a spell. But yeah, I mean, Casey Thompson only got reps with the ones today. So that made it a little bit tougher than I would have liked to have judged the quarterback performances today. I thought that was a little disappointing and a little bit surprising. I don't know if we should read into that too much, guys. I mean, Sark has talked about it. He talked about it before the game. He just talked about it after the game, how this is an open competition. And I've been telling y'all all month long that, hey, even if one guy goes out and balls out today and the other guy looks like trash and throws 3 picks, Sark's still not going to make a decision, or at least announce his decision anytime soon. This thing is going to go through the summer. It's going to go into the fall. I don't think we're going to have an announcement on who QB1 is going to be until the week of the season opener against Louisiana. Part of that has to do with the transfer portal. Part of that has to do with, look, Sark just wants to give himself as much time as possible to make a decision. By the way, let's get the banner up. This video is brought to you by Last Stand Hats. Check them out, laststandhats.com. Use the code BK10 at checkout to get 10% off your order of any Last Stand hats. They are the best Texas hats that you can find. They are officially licensed by the University of Texas as well. All right, so let's kind of dive into the quarterbacks, guys. Casey Thompson, boy, the opening drive was special. Marching Texas down the field through a beautiful, what should have been a touchdown pass to Joshua Moore in the back of the end zone. Josh Moore has to come down with that. I'll give Brendan Schooler some credit, making a play on the ball late to break it up as Joshua Moore was falling to the ground. But, I mean, in a game, we're all going to be pretty furious with Joshua Moore if he doesn't come down with that. Like, that needs to be a catch. That was a perfect throw. Great scheme by Steve Sarkisian and this offensive staff to get more open. Perfect throw from Casey Thompson. Joshua Moore has to make that play. He didn't. That's okay. Texas bounces back. Casey Thompson makes a throw to pick up a first down. And then Bijan Robinson with, I mean, he had a few ridiculous runs on that opening possession, guys, but the touchdown run, my goodness, that dude is stupid good. The ridiculous cutback, cutting left to right, somehow not falling to the ground. I mean, I thought for sure he had slipped on the turf. I thought he was headed down to the ground, but somehow put a hand down and kept himself upright and ended up waltzing into the end zone for the opening score of the game. Actually, the only touchdown for the Orange team. Only 2 offensive touchdowns in this game for Texas. One for the Orange team, and that one was the opening drive of the game. So Casey Thompson, I thought, had a great opening drive. I thought he had a very, very good first half until his final throw of the first half, and that was a pick six, a 92-yard interception return for a score by Deshaun Jameson. Great play by the Shark. Love that. We need takeaways, and that's what Jameson does, right? He is a ball-hawking corner. Didn't have enough takeaway plays last year, but 2 years ago, we saw how that dude is just a menace to the football. Great read on his part. Jumped the route, got in front of Jordan Whittington, took it 92 yards untouched to the house. Great defensive play. Really bad decision from Casey Thompson. Really bad decision. The throw was late. The decision was bad. You can't make that mistake in the red zone. I mean, he threw it all the way across the field, too. He was kind of on the right hash, and Jordan Whittington was near the left sideline. Throw was late. Bad decision. Too much airtime. Deshaun Jameson, give him credit for making the play, but that is a very, very dangerous pass from Casey Thompson. And that's a pass you really can't live with in the red zone. And Steve Sarkisian talked about it, I think, during his either going into halftime or maybe they talked to him on LHN in the third quarter, and he basically echoed my sentiments like, we got to make smarter decisions around the red area. And after that first drive for Casey Thompson and the Orange team really struggled in the red zone. They settled for field goals after that. I mean, you had the interception, and then you had 2 field goals kicked by the Orange team in the red area. You got to come away with touchdowns, guys. We've seen that song and dance too many times over the last few years here, where Texas gets into the red area, but they have to settle for 3, or Tom Herman had to bring out the binder and make a very questionable coaching decision. So up until that pick six, I thought Casey Thompson played great. Second half, not so great. Some missed throws. I didn't get a lot of help. Neither of these quarterbacks got a ton of help from the receivers, guys. Drops was a little bit of an issue. CB made the joke in the comment section a few seconds ago that the wide receivers just dropped another pass. Yeah, 3 very early drops. I don't have any stats in front of me in terms of how many drops Texas had for the game, but Marcus Washington had a bad one. Malcolm Epps had a bad one early on. Somebody else, I wrote it in my notes. I'll pull it up. I feel bad calling these guys out because they probably weren't the only ones who dropped. Oh, of course, Joshua Moore. We talked about that a few minutes ago. They dropped touchdown. Yeah, the wide receivers did have some struggles early on. Thankfully, Texas got some good wide receiver news during the game. We'll get to that here in a second. But yeah, second half just not as great for Casey Thompson. The decision-making wasn't quite there. Once again, missed some throws. Just didn't look as comfortable as we saw in the first half and didn't look nearly as comfortable as what we saw in the Alamo Bowl back in December. Now, I've been saying it all week long. Steve Sarkisian's been saying it as well. Like, we knew today wasn't going to be perfect. We knew these quarterbacks were going to make some mistakes. They're a month into a completely new offensive system, new coaches, new verbiage, new lingo, new scheme, new everything. And spring practice has only gone on for about a month. So we figured this wouldn't be perfect. No, by the way, Steve Sarkisian apparently was installing more of the offense like on Monday of this week. So they're still learning things, and they're going to continue to learn things over the course of the summer and into the fall as well. So expected some inconsistencies, expected some problems, and we saw some of that from both. I saw some of those from both quarterbacks today. What about Hudson Card, though, guys? I'll get to some of y'all's comments and questions in a second. I appreciate the love. I promise we will get to those. I want you guys to kind of spearhead this discussion once we discuss the quarterbacks, and hell, we can keep talking about quarterbacks if that's what y'all want to talk about. Hudson Card in the second half was really, really good. I mean, without question, he was the better of the two quarterbacks in the second half. I thought Casey Thompson was clearly better. I mean, not significantly better, but he was better in the first half. I thought Hudson Card was pretty significantly better in the second half. He made the best throw of either quarterback today. Casey Thompson's ball to Joshua Moore in the end zone that should have been caught. Very nice throw. But the one touchdown pass that Hudson Card threw to Marcus Washington was special. I mean, he threw him open. You hear that phrase, that expression all the time. That was prime example of that. That was the dictionary picture of throwing a guy open. I mean, when Hudson Card released that football, Marcus Washington was covered. He wasn't open. There was no window. There was no separation. And Hudson Card just dropped in a beauty to Marcus Washington for the one offensive touchdown for the white team. Best throw of the day, without question, by either guy. And Hudson Card looked more and more comfortable as the game progressed. Did have some bad moments in the fourth quarter, short-armed a throw or two, took 2 bad sacks in that de facto 2-minute drill that the white team was running on their last offensive possession. I know they were up 20-12, but Sark still wanted to run a 2-minute drill, I guess, just to give those guys some run. And Hudson Card, who did not have great offensive line play in front of him, mind you, working with the twos, he did take a couple of bad sacks. You could see Kyle Flood yelling at him on the sideline, like, dude, just throw the ball away or throw it at a receiver's feet. Like, you can't take those sacks. And ultimately that led to a missed Dicker the kicker field goal. Dicker the kicker was awesome. Outside of that, he was spectacular. 4 made field goals, including a 58-yarder, but did miss that 52, 53-yarder, whatever it was. And it was only that long because Hudson Card took a couple of bad sacks. So got to clean those up a little bit. But Hudson Card for the day, 16 of 24, 188 yards in that touchdown pass we just talked about. Looked really, really good in the second half, guys. His anticipation was solid. That arm talent, man, we've heard about it a lot. We've talked about it on the shows. The dude's got some arm talent. And I actually heard the LHN guys before the game. I don't want to say comparing him to Aaron Rodgers because they weren't doing that, and they were very cautious with the way they presented it. But they basically said, like, some of the things that Aaron Rodgers does, you can see Hudson Card do to a much smaller degree. There was actually an article from The Athletic earlier this offseason that kind of made a similar comparison. It was actually an anonymous member of the 2020 Texas coaching staff who made that comparison, or at least that was the first I heard that comparison. Now I've heard a couple of other people make it as well. I know a lot of the insiders, guys like Jeff Ketchum at Orange Bloods and Ian Boyd at Inside Texas. Those guys are pretty high on Hudson Card, and they think that, this offense might be better suited with Hudson Card as QB1 for this football team. By the way, on that throw, Andre Ware lost his mind. Andre Ware, College Football Hall of Famer, not a Hall of Fame announcer. We can get to that in a second. But he was like really, really impressed by that throw from Hudson Card. And if that guy likes it, it's good enough for me. That was a great throw by Hudson Card. He made some great plays in the second half. Sark did say after the game in his little media availability that he's looking for more consistency from the quarterbacks. No surprise there. He's used that word a bunch throughout the course of the spring. He said he was not worried at all with the fact that the offense only scored 2 touchdowns. I think somebody asked him that question, like, hey, does that bother you at all? And he said, it's the spring game. That was his whole response. It was just like 10 seconds of awkward silence after that. So that's basically a no. Like, Sark, not too worried, not too concerned. He knows that these quarterbacks are still learning. He knows that this offense is still trying to figure things out. So he's not too bothered by what he saw, really the lack of points, the lack of touchdowns by both offenses today. But yeah, he talked about more consistency from the quarterbacks. Hard to disagree. I think that's what we're all looking for. All right, let's check the comment section, guys. Appreciate the love. We'll scroll back up to the top here. CB asked, why was Bijan in late? I think that's obvious. I mean, I think Sark wanted to replicate real game 2-minute drill situations. We saw that at the end of the first half. We saw that at the end of the second half. Like, those I guess you can kind of replicate those in practice, but once again, this is the closest thing to a game that Texas has between now and September 4th. So Sark wanted to see how his young quarterbacks, hell, how his entire football team looked running 2-minute drills. It made me a little nervous. Obviously, seeing Bijan Robinson kind of get rolled up on by David Benda scared me a little bit. And then you saw the LHN cameras pan over to the sideline, and you saw Bijan Robinson getting his ankle looked at a little bit. I don't think there's any cause for concern. If there was like a serious injury, the entire training staff would have been dealing with Bijan, not just like one person taking a quick look at him and then walking away. Like if there was something serious going on, something to panic about, then everybody and their mother would have been around Bijan Robinson in that moment. So I think we're okay there, but a lot of people dislike it. A lot of people just don't want to take that risk, that chance in a spring game. Bijan's the best player on this football team. Why do you have him out there in the fourth quarter of a meaningless scrimmage? I get people being upset with that, but there's your answer. Sark trying to replicate real game situations. All right, Nino season. Last spring game I went to was basically over halfway through the third, so I bet this one was a lot more interesting. Oh, yeah, the one 2 years ago. Yeah, this one, it was a pretty interesting game. And the fact that the starters played all four quarters, whether you like it or not, due to the injury concerns, it made things more interesting. Like sometimes I wouldn't do this because of my line of work. And even if I didn't work in my line of work, I probably would still watch all four quarters of the spring game. But if you get to a point where it's all walk-ons and third and fourth stringers in the game and one team's winning by like 3 touchdowns, you turn the channel. I wouldn't blame you. That's fine. We didn't have that today. I mean, the starters played the vast majority of the snaps, especially the 2 quarterbacks, and this game was pretty much played within one possession throughout its entirety. So it did make things a little bit more entertaining for those who went and for those who watched on TV or listened on the horn. Lorena, what's up, Lorena? Is the defense good, or is defense good? Defense in general is good. I'm good with defense. Is this defense good? We saw some good things today from Pete Kwiatkowski's defense. We really did. A couple of standouts. Moro Ojimo, a couple of sacks. He was really good. How about Vernon Broughton making some plays? Now, he was on the orange defense going up against the number 2 white offensive line, but he had a couple of big-time plays as well. A huge hit on, I don't remember who he got, one of the running backs, I think, pretty early on. Liked what I saw from him. Obviously, the Deshaun Jameson pick six was a really, really impressive play. Brendan Schooler made a couple of plays as well. So, yeah, I mean, I liked what I saw from the defense, especially the defensive line. They were the strength today. They're the strength of this football team. I mean, the D-line and the running back room, your most talented, your deepest position groups on this football team. Both of those units really showed out today. Coburn made a couple of plays. Didn't see a ton of Alfred Collins. Not that that concerns me too much. We know what that dude is capable of, and he's going to be a tremendous impact player for this team in the fall. I don't think we heard his name called a whole hell of a lot. I'm going to go back and watch this game probably 2 or 3 times between now and the show Monday afternoon. But had a couple of Jacoby Jones mentions. Ray Thornton showed face a couple of times, which was good. We've heard a lot about both of those guys throughout the course of the spring. So, yeah, some good things from the defense. I think there's reason to be optimistic with a lot of this defense. Linebackers didn't look too bad today. No DeMarvion Overshown, who was interviewed during the game and was asked about how many armbands he's going to wear during the fall. And he said between 8 and 20, which I thought was a hilarious answer. One of the funniest answers I think I've ever heard. Between 8 and 20 armbands coming for Agent Zero, a.k.a. the Arm Bandit, this fall. But, yeah, the linebackers, like they didn't stand out in a bad way for me. Once again, I got to go back and watch. But I thought Benda and Ford held their own. I don't think they made a ton of plays, but they weren't like getting worked for the most part, which might be all you can ask for from this linebacker core this year, guys. Like if the linebackers on a scale of 1 to 10, if the linebacker play for Texas in the fall is like a 6.5 to a 7, I'd be thrilled. Like just give me a passing grade, baby. C's and D's get degrees. I'll take that from the linebackers this year. The hope is they're not like a 3 or a 4, because that would cause some problems for this defense. But just adequate passing linebacker play at this point, that's good enough for me, because I trust the defensive line to hold its own. And then I think the secondary has potential to be a pretty decent unit as well. So hopefully you can get decent linebacker play this fall. Harrison says, I think the defense played great, actually. A few things to clean up, but the defense will be good. Yeah, once again, I liked a lot of what I saw from Pete Kwiatkowski's defense. Once again, not perfect from them either. Those guys still learning a new system. I think it's a little bit easier for a defense in a spring game with first-year, first-time head coaches, just like the defense you're flying to the football. The offense at times looked a little bit robotic, I thought, throughout the course of today's game. Defense looked to be playing more loose, more free. Just my opinion. But yeah, no, I think there's reasons for optimism, especially on defense. Long comment, blocking half my face. That's good. I got a face for radio. Nobody wants to see it anyways. Harrison says a little disappointed in the QBs, especially with Casey. Expected more. Yeah, good point right there. Steve Sarkisian, not the main play caller for either team. It was Kyle Flood calling the plays for one side and Jeff Choate, the linebackers coach, I think calling the plays for the other side. At least that's what Sark said during one of his in-game interviews that he did on Longhorn Network. So, yeah, look, once again, not going to be perfect. Not going to be perfect. Quarterbacks had some good moments. They had some bad moments today. Still trying to learn a new offense. Both of these guys don't have a ton of experience. Hudson Card has thrown 3 passes in his college career. Casey Thompson obviously threw 10 in that dazzling second-half performance against Colorado in the Alamo Bowl, but he hasn't started the game either. So bumps and bruises. I mean, even if this team had the same coaching staff from last year, there would still be some inconsistencies at the QB position with the new staff, new offense. Not going to be perfect, but Sark is not concerned. And once again, this team's got a lot of time, 4.5 months until they take the field for a game that actually means something. Carl asks, who were the most surprising players to you? Most surprising players. Kai Money had a great game. I'll give Kai Money some love. He was the most consistent receiver for Texas throughout the course of today's game. Maybe Hudson Card's favorite target on the white team. Also had that nice throw on that trick play, that double pass, finding Gunnar Helm, the freshman tight end, deep down the field. That was pretty cool. So Kai Money, a little bit of a surprise. I know he played a decent amount last year, to be honest, more than I would have liked. But he played really well today. Maybe a guy I didn't expect to play well. He showed out. Who else? Gabriel Watson had a couple of nice plays. The grad transfer from Sioux Falls, who was on the roster last year but didn't get much run, if any run at all in 2020. I don't know how much he's going to play. He's 4th on the depth chart for this team. And when Jonathan Brooks from Hallettsville, the one running back signee for the class of 2021, gets here, maybe he supplants Gabriel Watson. Point is, I don't know how much we're going to see of number 31 in the fall, but he played pretty well. He had some good runs, a couple of catches as well. So that was good to see. Other surprising players. We talked about Ojimo playing well. We talked about Vernon Broughton playing really, really well. Prince Dorba, we called his name a few times throughout the course of today's game. A little bit of a surprise. I mean, highly touted recruit, but one of those guys that we didn't see a lot of last year. So that's probably my answer for most surprising players to me. If you've got any, comment. I want to hear from you, Carl, and everybody else watching right now. Appreciate the love, by the way. Thank you all for stopping by. Any comments, any questions, any concerns, any thoughts about the orange-white scrimmage? Once again, the white team getting the win 20-12. I don't know if anybody really cares about the score. I know the coaching staff doesn't really care about the score. Brandon says, offensive line looks suspect to say the least. Both quarterbacks were running all day long. Yes, some major inconsistencies up front for Texas. Hudson Card was running for his life. The number 2 offensive line, which was the white team offensive line, not very good. They were getting worked, and they weren't going up against the number 1 D line, right? They were going up against the number 2 D line. So we've talked about it all month long. We feel really good about the defensive line room, talent, experience, depth. All 3 of those things were on display today. And the number 2 defensive line looked really, really good against the number 2 offensive line. And then, yeah, the number 1 offensive line had some issues as well. Junior Anglao did not have a great day, in my opinion, especially pass blocking. And that's kind of a recurring theme with him. He's a very, very good run blocker, but not a great pass blocker last year, and he got beat a few times. I remember seeing that. A couple of corner/safety blitzes were really well timed out and worked. Jaron Thompson had a sack in the first half. I think he got around Jared Wiley, a tight end, on one of those. Not a great blocking effort there from Jared Wiley, big number 18. I'm trying to think what other offensive line ineptitude we saw. I mean, Brandon, I don't disagree with you too much. A lot of inconsistencies from this offensive line. They've got some things to work on, but look, I think that tells you this defensive line is pretty good. Like what you wanted to see today, 2 things. Well, probably more than 2 things, but No injuries, number one. And once again, I don't think Bijan's an issue at all. So I think Texas walked away from today's game with no injuries, which is great. And number two, you wanted to see both sides make plays. It would have been concerning if the defensive line was getting no pressure throughout the course of the day. You'd be pumped about the offensive line, like, hey, even without Sam Cosmi, we might be really good up front. Even without Derek Herstetter being a part of this thing, we might be really good on the O-line. But then you'd be like, well, the defensive line might not be as good as we thought. And then the other way around too, right? I mean, if the defensive line was getting pressure all day long, which, look, they were better than the offensive line today, but they weren't winning every single matchup. They weren't winning on every single snap. Then you'd have some serious concerns about the O-line. So, yeah, I mean, the D-line got the better of the O-line today. I don't think that's a huge surprise. That unit is just better on this football team. Yeah, the D-line has a chance to be one of the best, not only in the conference, but maybe like a top 10, 15 to 20 defensive line in the country, especially the interior with Coburn Collins, T'Vondre Sweat, who didn't play today. Vernon Broughton showed some things today. They've got some dudes, some war daddies up there. As wide receivers go, if Kai Money is your most productive wide receiver, Kia Money, that's hilarious. Nice autocorrect there, I assume, Mr. NL. Look, Kai Money's not this team's best wide receiver. I saw that sort of joke, mock overreaction on Twitter. Had a good day today. He was running with the twos. Once again, it's not like Hudson Card had the ability to throw to Jordan Whittington or Troy O'Meary or Joshua Moore on any of his dropbacks. So Kai Money being one of the better backup wide receivers on this football team, maybe not a huge surprise, but I mean, there's 5 or 6 wide receivers better than Kai Money on this football team, guys. Definitely 4. We didn't see Jake Smith today, of course. Troy O'Meary, very limited. Jordan Whittington, we know. Jordan Whittington made a couple of big plays. And then Joshua Moore, despite the drop, had a couple of catches as well. We know all 4 of those guys are better options than Kai Money. But once again, Kai Money, great day. I don't mean to take away from his performance. He stood out. I didn't see any official stats, but my guess is he was the leading receiver in this game today for Texas, but he's not going to be the most productive wide receiver in the fall. By the way, speaking of wide receiver, I'm sure y'all saw this, but very early on in the spring game, Texas got a commitment from Xavier Worthy, who is one of the top wide receivers in the country for the class of 2021. A lot of speculation that this was coming, but he was originally committed and signed with Michigan. Some rumors about academic issues. I don't know exactly what went down. I need to do a little bit of digging on this, but ended up decommitting from Michigan about a week ago and announcing today via Twitter that he is committing to Texas. Big get. Top 10 wide receiver in the country for the class of 2021. So that should help. I don't know how much of an impact Xavier Worthy is going to make from day one, since he wasn't a part of the spring and he's coming in as a true freshman this fall. But that dude's a speedster, man. He can absolutely go. At least he could in high school. So that's a big get. High 4-star kid from the state of California coming to UT. Man, Sark's going to clean house on the West Coast. He's going to do well in Texas. Don't get me wrong, but already getting Malik Murphy from California, now getting that commitment from Xavier Worthy today. That's a big get. And the timing of that commitment was hilarious, guys. I assume this was not intentional, but Xavier Worthy tweeted his commitment video out right after the Joshua Moore drop touchdown. So you had the earlier drop from Marcus Washington early in the first, and then you had the drop from maybe I'm getting my drops mixed up, but whatever. You had 3 drops early on, and then pretty much Xavier Worthy's tweet committing to Texas went out right after those happened. So I thought that was pretty funny, and hopefully that eased some of the minds of Texas fans who were upset with the wide receiver / tight end play early on. I was too. 3 drops in the first quarter, not ideal, not really acceptable. Maybe nerves, who knows? But Xavier Worthy, big time get for Sark. I'm excited to see him don the burnt orange and white. Parachute says, I believe the pass to 21 would have went the distance if he had been healthy and not wearing the black jersey. What play are you talking about? Why do I not remember this? 21 is Troy O'Meary, obviously, trying to become the best number 21 since Rod Babers on the 40 acres. What play is that? Yeah, limited snaps. We expected that. Troy O'Meary's been limited all spring long, coming off that torn ACL that he suffered last fall camp. So no surprise. Glad he looked fine. He looked okay. Did have a moment where he was reaching for his knee after a catch, but I think he was just adjusting his knee brace. I think he was perfectly fine, and he ended up coming back into the game and playing a few more snaps after that. So I don't think any cause for concern. I just think they want to make sure Troy Amir is 100% healthy before they start letting him take some hits, which I totally buy. I mean, if that dude's as good as advertised, rave reviews last year, rave reviews this year, then we don't need to see a whole lot from him in a spring game. Just make sure he's healthy by the time September 4th rolls around. I don't even know how I put that comment up, Todd. Let's see. Kenneth Evans left at half, not happy with what I saw. Okay, what did you not like, Kenneth? Did you watch the second half? Did you just get home? I can't imagine traffic leaving DKR was a problem, especially if you left at halftime. But look, not perfect. Told y'all not to expect perfection. There was going to be some issues on both sides, and we saw that. But don't make your judgments on a head coach or on a football team in April. You're doing it wrong if you're doing that. Frank says, back to the quarterbacks, was Card the better quarterback today? Seemed decent when not under pressure. Casey better playmaker. Card had the better second half. Casey Thompson was better in the first half. Hudson Card was better in the second half. Hudson Card made the best play of either quarterback today with that touchdown throw to Marcus Washington. He was under pressure a lot, working with the number 2 offensive line. He was running for his life on a lot of dropbacks. But, I thought Hudson Card was really good, guys. Honestly, I think most Texas fans will leave today feeling better about Hudson Card. I don't know if I want to say than they do Casey Thompson, because what Casey Thompson did in the Alamo Bowl in a real game that actually means something was very, very impressive. But perhaps a little bit of the public perception with the quarterback battle switch today. And just checking my Twitter timeline over the course of the game, I think some of it did. I think some fans were like, okay, maybe Hudson Card is a lot closer to Casey Thompson than I originally thought. But, both quarterbacks made some plays. Both had some inconsistencies, but I would probably agree with you. I think Hudson Card had the better day overall. He had the best play, and Casey Thompson had the worst play with that pick six that he threw late in the first half to Deshaun Jameson. Casey Thompson maybe the better playmaker. Yeah, there were moments in today's game where in a real game, Casey Thompson, I think, would have taken off and ran and picked up some yards with his legs. But in a spring type of game, maybe not wanting to do that, not want to put himself at risk, not want to put the defense in a bad situation where they can't decide whether or not they need to hit Casey Thompson or whatever. Casey Thompson, probably the better athlete of the two quarterbacks, even though Hudson Card is an athlete himself, played wide receiver for the first couple of years of his high school career at Lake Travis. But I'll go with Hudson Card slightly better today over Casey Thompson. But once again, this quarterback battle is far from over. Sark did not announce anything in the postgame. He's not going to announce anything for a long, long time. But I think a lot of Texas fans kind of feel this way. Feeling pretty good about Hudson Card with his performance today. All right. Keep the comments coming, guys. Keep the questions coming. I'll roll for another few minutes. We're already up over half an hour. Gotta get on with my Saturday. Beautiful day out there. Actually, we got so much to watch. Texas baseball, they're up 4-0 last time I checked on Oklahoma State. I'm going to get a quick Twitter check for y'all. That game not on TV. The second game will be on ESPN+, but the first of the double header between Texas and Oklahoma State, not on TV. There's like a live stream on Oklahoma State's website, or their Oklahoma State athletics website, and it's very low quality. There are no commentators. There's no scoreboard. Very frustrating. Oh, it's 4-3. Wow. Oklahoma State put up 3 in the 6th. Ty Madden's night is done. Did give up 3 runs. So 4-3. I'm going to have to watch that here in a second. So we'll wrap up here in a couple of minutes. Obviously, Texas volleyball tonight, too. Hook 'em Horns going for a national championship against Kentucky. Third school history. That would be awesome. Matt says we have 2 stud QBs. I was at DKR and both looked good during warm-ups. Yeah, both quarterbacks made some plays. I feel like I'm harping on this point over and over again. There were some inconsistencies. We expected to see those today, but both quarterbacks also made some good throws. They looked like they knew what they were doing. Didn't look like a lot of miscommunications, right? Didn't look like a lot of ineptitude. Didn't look like a lot of mental brain farts, if you will, for the 2 quarterbacks, which was good. That was good to see. These guys look relatively comfortable. Once again, some missed throws, some questionable decisions, but it's good that both quarterbacks look good during the game. It's good that both quarterbacks look good during warm-ups, too. Still some work to do for those guys, but you've got 2 Power 5 quality quarterbacks without question. Power 5 starting quarterbacks without question on this roster right now. Not a lot of teams in college football can say that. in the age of the transfer portal. And that's obviously a part of this decision for Steve Sarkisian, right? He needs to do whatever he can to make sure both quarterbacks stay on this roster. That's part of the reason why he's not making an announcement anytime soon, because he doesn't want to lose either of these cats to the portal. Because if that happens, well, you're one play away from a true freshman being your second string quarterback. And I love Charles Wright. Y'all know that. Called his games at Austin High. Fantastic kid. Great player. Comes from a great family. Love him. You don't want a true freshman as your second string quarterback in college football, at any level of football. No, not any level of football. You don't have true freshmen in the NFL. What am I talking about? Dicker the kicker getting some love. 4 for 5 on field goals. Almost a perfect day for Dicker the kicker. Did miss that last one, 52, 53-yarder, but the 58-yarder was sick. LHN thought it was 63 yards, which was ridiculous. I don't know who told them that. But still, 58, pretty impressive. We know Dicker the kicker can kick, man. That guy's awesome. Love having that dude on this team. Carl says, what position groups are the most likely to be supplemented in the transfer portal after watching the game? Well, I don't know if you count Xavier Worthy as a transfer portal guy, but Texas did pick up a wide receiver today. Maybe they'll look for another one. I doubt it. Some other positions, linebacker's the big one. Linebacker's the big one, without question. You'll get DeMarvion Overshown back for the fall, which is great, but you just don't have a lot of depth in that linebacker room. I mean, to hell with experience and talent, which those are both question marks. You just don't have a lot of bodies at linebacker right now. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Texas goes after a linebacker, if not 2 linebackers in the portal. That would be the number one position of need for this offseason for me. I think Sark mentioned something like having 7 or 8 scholarships available, so they could address a few different positions. Linebacker would be number one. There was a kid, Palaie Heote Ote, I believe is how you pronounce his name, a transfer from USC, former 5-star kid. Played a lot for USC. Not like one of those 5 stars who just couldn't figure it out in college. No, this guy's like a talented player, and he's in the portal. And there's some smoke to Texas. This dude's getting offers and interest from everybody and their mother. So it's going to be a tough recruiting battle for Sark and PK, but that's a name. Like if Texas can bring that guy in, then, well, there you go. That's a plug-and-play starter. Heote with DeMarvion Overshown. All of a sudden, the linebacker room goes from like a serious area of concern to, all right, you've got a couple of dudes. Still don't have that much depth, but you've got a couple of dudes that you can feel good about starting for Texas. So that's the name to look out for. I think I pronounced it right. I watched YouTube highlights of him for like an hour earlier this week, just making sure I wouldn't completely botch that on air, and probably did. Timothy says, I'm disappointed in the wide receivers. Yeah, that's a recurring theme today. Wide receiver play, not great. Once again, though, you'll get Jake Smith back in the fall. Troy O'Meary was limited, only played a few snaps, wearing that black non-contact jersey. And, yeah, I mean, that's it. Jordan Whittington made a couple of plays. You know that dude can ball. Just keep him healthy. Joshua Moore, the drop touchdown, disappointing, no question. That can't happen during a real game, but he made some plays as well. You feel good about the 4. At least I feel good about those 4, but after that, I don't feel great. That's why Texas went out and got Xavier Worthy, and they might look at another player in the transfer portal at wide receiver. But, yeah, way too many drops, especially early on. Marcus Washington had one. He's a junior. He needs to step up. Like, he's running out of time. And he's had golden opportunities this spring with the injuries that I talked about, and haven't heard his name a whole lot. Hey, spring football is over now, so we're not going to hear his name anytime soon in terms of on-the-field stuff. So, yeah, I would have loved Marcus Washington, a junior, a guy who's been here for a while, to have had a better spring. Did make a couple of plays, had a touchdown in the spring game, but a drop. Also had a kick-catch interference on special teams. Yeah, there's reason to be a little bit disappointed and concerned with the depth at wide receiver. We've talked about that on this channel. We've talked about that on the show, on the Horn. Some concerns there. That's fair. Why didn't Sark call plays? My guess is, look, I'm sure Sark helped out in some play calls today, especially with decision-making in terms of going for it on 4th down and stuff like that. But he just wanted to get the bird's eye view of both teams, of all of his players. Just wanted the overview, I guess, just to see everything. He wasn't going to call offensive plays for both the orange and the white, and he probably felt like it wouldn't be fair if he was calling plays for one side and not the other side. So that would be my guess. I don't know if we heard that from Sark in the postgame, but I'm sure he was part of some of the play calls, but he just wanted to see all of his guys, instead of just kind of acting like he was on one team. Show You Harris. It's a great name, if that's your real name. I want both to thrive. Yeah, that's a very rational take. I appreciate that, Show You Harris. You should want both quarterbacks to be successful. You shouldn't be picking sides. I know a lot of Longhorn fans had their minds made up before today. I know even more have their minds made up after today. But yeah, the hope is both of these quarterbacks are a part of the team, because you're going to need both of them come the fall. So the hope is both of these guys thrive in this offense this fall. And you agree with Sark. Sark's holding his thoughts too on who the starter will be. All right, couple more comments, couple more questions. Appreciate the love, guys. A lot of people, more than 60 of y'all watching right now, which is big time. If you're watching this after the fact, feel free to comment below any questions, any thoughts, and I will get back to those. By the way, if you haven't yet, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. Hit that little notification bell too, if you would be so kind. Longhorn content all the time on this channel. By the way, check out some of the other great Longhorn YouTubers as well. Fanatic Perspective, I've done some videos with them over the last couple of days. They're pretty close to 10,000 subscribers. I think I'm at like 500, which I'm excited. I appreciate y'all, but check them out. Get them to 10,000 subscribers. They do great work over there. My guy Steven, always getting it done. I'm sure he's going to have a video coming today or tomorrow. He might be doing one right now. Hell. Texas Homer, Tex Platinum. Show those guys some love too. All right, Harrison says very minimal penalties. Yeah, look, refs during the spring game, they're told not to call the normal amount of penalties. So I'm sure Texas got away with a few holds. I thought it was a relatively clean game. And yes, considering the last coaching staff and how penalties were just a recurring issue under Tom Herman, it was nice to see things run relatively cleanly today. But yeah, it's hard to judge too much on that because, once again, officials are told not to throw the flag. Like, when in doubt, don't throw it. A couple of false starts, like when Charles Wright was in the game, you had a couple of false starts with the number one offensive line. I assume Charles Wright has not gotten a lot of run with the number one offensive line, so probably communication issues there. But yeah, I agree. Not a lot of penalties, but I don't know. Show you, yeah. I did say that to Steven on our last Fanatic Perspective video. Thank you for watching that. Biggest concern coming out of today's game for Texas. Let me think here. Let me check my notes. I mean, the offensive line play was not great. We talked about how there weren't a lot of penalties just now, but some inconsistencies on the offensive line. Once again, I do think the defensive line is really, really good, a big-time strength of this football team. So maybe we chalk some of the O-line woes to just the defensive line having a really, really good day. But that would probably be a big concern for me. Wide receiver drops, a big issue. We just mentioned those a couple of minutes ago too. Not ideal. Red zone woes, a problem for both sides, but especially when Casey Thompson was in the game. Like, outside of that first drive, having to settle for field goals, and obviously the pick six thrown in the red zone late in the first half. Not ideal, but you've got time to clean those things up. So those are probably 3 or 4. I don't know how many I gave you. You asked for 1. Sorry, dude. Texas Savage says we need a transfer quarterback. Interesting. What makes you say that, Texas Savage? Not a believer in either Casey Thompson or Hudson Card? Yeah, I don't know if Texas is going to be able to get like a quality transfer quarterback. I'm sure there are some guys in the portal, but guys who are in the portal want to play. And hell, the loser of this job might enter the portal. But yeah, I don't think someone's going to come in here and get into a 3-way quarterback competition. I don't think the coaches are looking after a quarterback in the portal. If they can find like an experienced guy who just wants to be a backup and is like, hey, I get to go play football for the University of Texas. I get to get a great degree at UT. I get to be a Longhorn. Then hell, maybe they'll find a guy like that. But in terms of like an impact player, if that's what you're looking for, that's not going to happen. I don't think Texas really needs another quarterback too. Obviously, it would be a concern if one of those guys, Casey Thompson or Hudson Card, enters the transfer portal. But as of right now, neither of those guys are there. Neither of those guys are going to enter the portal anytime soon. Let's see. Sparty Cruz says, will Xavier Worthy have enough time to make an impact this fall? Tough to answer right now. He's a great player. I mean, his high school film is ridiculous. The guy can fly. Top 10 receiver in the country for the class of 2021. Top 5 player, I think, in the state of California. We know how much talent is out there. But not having spring ball will hurt. But yeah, he's got a chance. I mean, once again, the wide receiver depth, not a strong suit for this team. And when the inevitable happens, unfortunately, don't accuse me of jinxing anything, because these receivers have all gotten hurt plenty of times before I've made this comment. But when the inevitable happens and one or two of the receivers get hurt in the fall, there will be a chance, I would think, for Xavier Worthy to make an impact when the season comes around. So he'll have some catching up to do for sure. But I assume he'll be here for some summer stuff and then fall camp too. So if he's good, look, Tom Herman talked about a meritocracy. He didn't run a meritocracy. If he did, Bijan Robinson would have played a hell of a lot more last year. Steve Sarkisian, I fully believe, is going to run a meritocracy. He wants to get his best 11 on the field at all times. Not only does he say that, we've seen that. We saw it at Bama the last 2 years. We saw it at his previous stops, both as a head coach and an offensive coordinator as well. He's going to get his best 11 on the field. So if Xavier Worthy is one of the best 11, yeah, he'll get some run in the fall. Absolutely. Absolutely. George, tons of fans today. Coach Sark has brought new energy. Concession line's too long. How about that? Yeah, I didn't go. I did the pregame on the Horn, and I was worried I wouldn't make it in time. Easily could have gotten there. They didn't start the damn game until 1:15, so I rushed home. Got here like right at 1 o'clock, and turns out I probably could have made it to the game, but it's good to watch at home, get some different perspective. But yeah, I mean, 25 to 27,000 people, I think, in attendance at DKR, which was the max they were allowing in. I haven't heard anything about having to turn people away, so it seems like they got the exact amount of people that they were looking for. Concessions lines too long. Well, it's DKR, man. It's always too long at DKR. And my guess is they probably didn't have all the concession stands open on the lower bowl because of the reduced capacity. But yeah, beautiful day for football. Never a bad day for football, but low 80s. Sun was out, a little bit of a breeze too. Incredibly nice out. Had to be a perfect time for those in attendance at DKR. The south end zone being unveiled. Nobody was sitting there. They're still working on it. Construction not quite done. Unfortunately, the scoreboard was not operating today either, but it looked pretty cool on TV. And there's energy. There's a buzz surrounding this Texas football program right now. Anytime there's a new coach, that happens, but I think people, including myself, are pretty excited about the Steve Sarkisian hire. We will get you to 10K eventually. Appreciate the love. Appreciate the love, guys. Y'all mean the world to me. Those who watch on YouTube, those who listen to the shows on the Horn, you guys put food on my table. I mean that literally. So thank you for those kind words. I was hoping to see Card throw the ball down the field a little bit more. Yeah, me too. Once again, I mentioned it at the start of the video. I'm sure a bunch of you have jumped in and out throughout the last 47 minutes. I appreciate that. But the biggest disappointment for me was the fact that Hudson Card did not get any run with the ones, right? All of the ones on offense were on the orange team. So the starting offensive line and all of the best receivers were working with Casey Thompson. Hudson Card was working with the number 2 offensive line, so he was running for his life a lot, didn't have time to drop back, set his feet, and throw the ball down the field that often. And then, yeah, he wasn't working with the best receivers on this team either. So I was surprised by that, a little disappointed by that. Hard to get a perfect feel for the two quarterbacks. I mean, also, I mentioned that Hudson Card was working with number 2s on offense. He was going against number 2s on defense for the most part of the game too. So part of the reasons why he made some good throws and looked as good as he did at times might have been because he was going up against a lot of number 2s on defense. So that was disappointing for me. I'm sure Sark has his reasons. It is what it is. I don't know if we need to look into that and say, hey, that means Casey Thompson is in the lead for this quarterback competition right now. Like the fact that he got every rep with the ones on offense today, I don't know. I don't know what that means. Sark will tell you it doesn't mean anything, but do we need to look into that, guys? I wouldn't be surprised if you said yes to that. I wouldn't blame you too much because that was confusing. Record for Texas. They're 1-0 right now. They just won. And they lost, I guess. I assume you mean during the regular season. Right now I'm going 8-4, which will piss some people off. And that's fine. Expectations are always higher here. But Texas has the 10th most returning production in the Big 12. Friendly reminder, there are 10 teams in the Big 12. And breaking in a new quarterback, there's going to be some growing pains for this team. There are 2 obvious losses for me. Look, anything can happen. Anything can happen. And if things go right for Texas, if one of these quarterbacks steps up, wins the job, and runs with it and looks really, really good, then yeah, this can be a 10-win team. Absolutely can be a 10-win team that's in Arlington at the end of the year playing for a Big 12 championship. But I just assume there are going to be some bumps and bruises. Oklahoma is going to be tough in Dallas. They're going to be a top 3 team in the country. We've seen undermanned Texas teams beat Oklahoma at the Cotton Bowl, so anything can happen in that rivalry game. Sometimes you throw records, you throw roster talent out the window when those two teams meet. But Texas will be an underdog in that game, and Texas will be an underdog at Iowa State. I mean, both OU and Iowa State are going to start the year in the top 10. Texas, to me, third best team in the Big 12, and they're fighting with Oklahoma State's in that conversation. If Max Duggan can play good against anybody besides Texas, TCU can be in that conversation as well. We'll see what happens with West Virginia this year. Kansas State perhaps gets back. They looked pretty good before Skylar Thompson got hurt midway through the season. And Skylar Thompson's coming back using that COVID super senior year. So that one will be tough, although Texas has that game in Austin, which is good. I don't know. I'm leaning 8-4 right now, guys, with a chance of like 9-3, maybe 10-2 if all things go right for this football team. But that would be my prediction on April 24th. Appreciate the love, Frank. Thank you very much. That means a lot. Salute. Fanatic Perspective. Go subscribe if you don't already. I got a bunch of subscribers from Steven plugging my channel. So thank you all for coming over and subscribing to me as well. That guy, great dude, awesome human being, and awesome YouTube channel as well. Fanatic Perspective. Definitely check that out if you haven't yet. Hats for Chris Beard. I need to talk to, I know Mike Murphy, Last Stand Hats up there. Use the code BK10 at checkout to get 10% off your purchase of Last Stand hats. Best hats in the game. He's working on Chris Beard hats, if that's what you're asking. I don't think he has anything out. I need to talk to him behind the scenes and see what we can do. All right, I'll read a couple more comments, guys, before we get out of here. Any word on a possible Ben Davis edition this summer? I did a pregame video, Sparty Cruz, and I don't know. I need to dig into that a little bit. I'm with you because I saw that report on Inside Texas. I talked to some people at Inside Texas and some other insiders behind the scenes, and it felt like for 2 weeks that Ben Davis to Texas was happening. And we just haven't heard anything about it in a while. So no clue what the deal is there. I will dig. That would be a nice ad. Former 5-star, one of the top 20 recruits in the country a couple of years ago. Things didn't pan out at Alabama. They've got a million other 5-stars, so sometimes it doesn't work for every single 5-star. But yeah, that would give you some linebacker depth for sure. I don't have an update though, unfortunately. I am sorry. Any chance we have 2 running backs over 1,000 yards? Yeah. It's a weird sound effect I just made. Sorry, y'all had to listen to that. Is there a chance? Yes, but very, very slim. I don't think so. I mean, Bijan's going to crack 1,000. Every year Steve Sarkisian's been a head coach or an offensive coordinator, he's had a 1,000-yard back. He mentioned that, I think, during his press conference earlier this week. So Bijan's going to crack 1,000 for sure. The question is, how much run does Rojo get? Rojo's going to get some run. Sark loves him. Sark talks about him all the time. Every time Sark was asked about Bijan during the spring, he would bring up Rojo on his own. So Rojo's going to get some run. Hopefully both running backs play. That was another, I don't want to call it disappointing. It's a spring game, and Sark told us he was going to be bland and be vanilla offensively. But I hope in the fall we see both of those guys on the field at the same time. Those guys being Whittington. I hope we see Whittington too. Those guys being Bijan and Rojo. So I'd say very, very slim chance that Tenzin. But Bijan will get there, and Rojo's going to have some. But Rojo's going to have over 500 yards, I think, this season, and that works. If you have 2 guys combining for that type of workload, that'd be awesome. John says, besides the Epps drops, I was surprised on how good the tight ends look. Yeah, the Epps drop was bad early on. Jared Wiley had a nice catch, did miss a block. Cade Brewer had a catch, had some good blocks as well. I said it in the pregame video. I just don't think there are any difference makers at tight end. And guys, I think Steve Sarkisian agrees with me. Even though he ran a lot of 12 personnel during the spring, even though the tight ends got some run today, felt like there was a tight end on the field most, if not all of the time. He hinted during one of those in-game interviews that Jatavion Sanders is going to start on offense at tight end when he gets to campus. The 5-star from Denton, that excites the hell out of me. I'm an offensive guy. I'm a product of new age football. I'm a millennial. I love offense. I love defense too. You need good defense, but I love offense. I want impact players on offense. That's Jatavion Sanders. And maybe I'm overcooking this. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, but if Sark feels that Jatavion Sanders is going to play tight end when he gets here, I think that means he kind of agrees with me that he doesn't feel like he has any tremendous impact players or difference makers at tight end. But we did see some good things from the tight ends today. Gunnar Helm had the catch on the Kai Money pass on the trick play. How about Juan Davis with the nasty? You get Adamora on that juke? I think we only called Juan Davis's name once, but that was filthy, dude. Just a little cutback. Adamora dove and completely whiffed. Hopefully that is Adamora. I'm sorry if I'm just calling him out unnecessarily, but that was a pretty nice play. So, yeah, we did see some things from the tight end room, but if Sanders is a tight end when he gets here, I think part of that has to do with this team just not having that difference maker at tight end. And I think Sark would love that, especially with the lack of depth at wide receiver right now. Shannon. What's up, Shannon? The QB battle is a long way from over, but anyone watching this game and didn't see Card's the far superior quarterback are the same fans anointing Thompson the runaway starter post-Alamo Bowl. We've talked about quarterbacks a lot, Shannon. If you think Hudson Card was superior today, that's fine. I agree with you. Far superior, I would disagree with. And another thing, Hudson Card was going up against the number 2 defense all day long. Well, Casey Thompson was going up against the number 1 defense all day long. So that might have made an impact. I do think Hudson Card was better, but this competition is far from over. Far from over. And it should be far from over. And Sark said that before this game, and he'll say it after the game. He's not making any decisions anytime soon. So I agree with you. There were some Texas fans anointing Casey Thompson as the runaway starter after the Alamo Bowl, but new coaching staff. Like if Tom Herman were still here, thank goodness he's not. Casey Thompson, like Tom Herman could act like there's a quarterback competition going on, but everybody and their mother would know that Casey Thompson would be trotting the offense onto the field September 4th against Louisiana. It's a clean slate for Sark. So Hudson Card does have a chance to actually overtake Casey Thompson in this quarterback battle. I thought Card had the better day. He was definitely better in the second half, but I don't think he was far superior today. I think that's a little bit of a reach. But hey, I appreciate your opinion. I appreciate you watching. Appreciate the comment. Hope you have a fantastic weekend, Shannon, and everybody watching. Xavier says, Collins let me down. Yeah, didn't hear Alfred Collins' name mentioned a lot. Big number 95. 5-star from Central Texas. Made some impact plays last year when he was on the field. I'm not too worried about Alfred Collins. Didn't have a great day today, but he's a stud. We know that. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. Thoughts on the end zone, the one right behind me? Yeah, I'm actually broadcasting live from TKR, Texas Memorial Stadium right now, guys. I haven't seen it in person. On TV, it looked cool. The Longhorn does kind of look like a uterus. It is what it is from certain angles, but sick, dude. I mean, it's the best logo in all of college sports. I'd argue in all of sports. And I don't think anybody else in the country has that, where their logo is incorporated in the stands. Sometimes you have like seat colors different to make a logo. Sometimes fans will wear different colored shirts to make a logo. But to actually like the construction to set up that way, it's unique. It's pretty badass. Close the stadium, kind of enclose the stadium. I know some people would have preferred more of like a full bowl, but it's going to help make DKR a little bit louder too. I like it on TV. I enjoy it. All right. I think I'm going to wrap it up for the day. Coming up on an hour. Appreciate y'all. This was a lot of fun. Great feedback. Great reaction. Thank you for the love, Sparty Cruz. Thank you, that Tenzin, for just subscribing. Appreciate that. If you're watching this, please like this video. Please share it. Please subscribe it. I would appreciate the love. More UT content coming all year long. Texas football, Texas basketball, Texas baseball, whatever we need to talk about, whatever's going on the 40. We'll talk about it on this channel. I'm sure all of you know this, but listen to the triple option with RBKD. Weekdays from 3 to 7 p.m. on the Horn. Myself, Rod Babers, Kevin Dunn. We'll be talking about this game, of course, all week long, starting on Monday. Agree with you, Frank. I enjoyed the fact that they played a full game, 4 quarters, 15 minutes each. They did have a running clock, so the game didn't take forever. It was a normal game. Sometimes spring games are confusing as hell. You have no idea the format. You have no idea the scoring. This one made sense. So tip of the cap to Sark for that. Why the hell did the Horn end the midday show? That marked the start of COVID. Coincidence? Decisions beyond my control. Don't read into that answer for me. I love the guys I work with now. I loved the midday show. Those decisions were made ahead of me, but our lineup, I think, now is pretty badass. But appreciate the love with Trey and BK. That was a lot of fun. That was a fun 3-year era, no question. Dirk says, I got sunburnt at the game. Yeah, sun's out. Beautiful day in Austin, Texas. Malik Murphy was in the stands. A few other recruits were in the stands too. We'll talk about that later this week in another video. So hot. Thank you, Lorena. I'm sure you're talking about me, not outside, not the game at all. I'm going to take that as a compliment. I appreciate the love. All right, guys. Thank you all for the love. Appreciate the comments, the questions, the feedback. You guys are great. Hope everyone enjoys their Saturday. Let's go win a freaking national championship tonight, huh? Hook them to the Texas volleyball team. Hopefully they can get it done in Omaha. Hopefully Texas baseball gets a couple of wins today. Texas softball playing too. Good day to be a Longhorn fan. 20-12, the final score. The white team beats the orange team. That's going to do it for this video. Until next time, thank y'all for watching. Y'all stay safe. Y'all stay healthy. And hook 'em.